Hello and welcome back to this edition of Daily Actives brought to you by Bootleg Macro. I'm Dustin. We're looking at AMD once again, and can you believe it? I wish I would have bought it today. That is the one thing that I feel a little bit sad about as I look at AMD because at 107.57, which is where the price ended today, and you can see that with the blue lettering with the white background, what that means in my system is that that's 3 standard deviations below the mean. Just imagine Bollinger Bands. The price is below the 5-day average and the 20-day average. The one thing that's really interesting is we haven't seen a big move in volume anymore. We're seeing essentially like kind of a drying up. Each day is kind of either range bound or slightly lower. The price though, we are down quite a bit. I mean, in 5 days we're down 7%. 15 days, 3%. In 1 month, over 7%. The one thing that's interesting to me is that we do not have go short signals on the short term or longer term. We do on the intermediate term, granted, but we're still bullish on the trend. Short term, intermediate term, and longer term, still very bullish here. We look at what we see in the rolling sentiment. Essentially, we can see that we have hit 51. If we're looking at the ultra fast sentiment, right here, what we're noticing is this is the first time we've been above the 15-day moving average in a while, since it looks like probably back in June. Yeah, back in June. That was the last time that we've been above it. So we should expect good things to happen. We do want to see kind of things shake out, though. I know in the trading signals, we do have multiple kind of combinations here of the bear and the bull key 3. We want to pay attention to that and see if we get a signal in the future. AMD's chart, hopefully what we're expecting is that this price is going to hold 100 at least. That would be the goal, but hold above like 105 is probably the best case scenario. If we're looking at the daily sentiment indicator, again, this looks relatively positive. We're above the 50%. The 15-day is rising. It looks like we've made a complete turn, at least in sentiment to a certain extent. The volume is not following through necessarily just yet, but we want to see a big volume move that coincides with a big breakout or a big bullish move. The volatility is starting to at least go higher. We don't know how high it's going to go, but it can break out. It doesn't look like, it's not as like pronounced as even, maybe it's pronounced as this, but it's taking a few more bars to get there. It might have a small hill, but right now the volatility correlation is relatively balanced. I think the way the trade range is going, it's going to show that there's going to be a break in volatility somewhere. The trade range is going to definitely break out much higher. If we look at it on the weekly, I can see that one of the things is that we could go all the way up to like 137. We could go down to 77, but it looks like we're going to be riding the top of the range there. Most likely, we did have a big move in May, and it did take a while to consolidate. And again, that 110 is probably the level that we haven't really wanted to break, and we're going to break it this week. So that'll be really interesting. Now that I look at it on the weekly, it'll definitely change the dynamic of how the weekly trade range looks on AMD. And when we're looking at how the volatility is lining up at least weekly. It is falling, while the correlation is starting to roll over, which means that the price should essentially be going sideways to up. So you would expect a little bit more bullishness even on the daily, which gives me a little bit more credence to the idea that I wish I would have really bought AMD today. I'm looking at the chart and I can see I wasn't paying attention. I was busy with things. And this is a prime setup and a blue chip name that everybody feels comfortable buying. That is going to get airtime on CNBC. It's going to get time on FinTwit. It's going to get time in Spaces, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. And that's what generates market demand. It's market sentiment. So this overall to me is a very good setup for AMD. The 107 price I think was a steal today. I mean, we'll see. This is the weekly. Now that I look at this on the ultra fast, it is slightly concerning. I will admit it's slightly concerning because you're up in the 60s already on the weekly, which of course, because your summer was so strong, but your August, where are you? Your August is starting to actually come down, which will be interesting to see. I think you're at 58%. Yeah, you're at 58% through the last week. I think we're going to see a little difference though, because 58 is pretty high, especially on a weekly. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you long or are you short? Do you like it? Do you love it? Is this even a good review? And before you go, subscribe to the New High newsletter. We give you 25 stocks to your inbox every single Sunday. Talk to you soon.